This show is brought to you by Mic Up Podcast Productions. Full transparency. This is my company. We run a full done for you podcast service for visionary leaders who want to change the world. We want to amplify your message, get you in front of more people, grow your personal brand so that you can impact more people without having to do all the BS yourself. And we don't want to take any more of your time. We want to take care of all of it for you so that you can focus on what you want to do. Whether you want to launch a show, whether you have a show and you want to give it some love and relaunch it, we want to help you build these relationships, impact more people, and we will help you do that through this podcast program. If you guys are curious and you want to launch a show or you have a show and you're interested, book a call with me or my team. And we'll just find out. We'll just find out where you're at. And if, you fit what we're looking for. We look for certain things in clients as they look for us. So we don't work with everybody. We just work with key people that have a vision and want to change the world. So if you guys want to do that, go to lanceessihos.com, mic up, book a call with me. I'd be happy to chat with you. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to University of Adversity. We're living in some times right now where the truth really matters. People are being misled with information from all different places. You pick up your phone, you turn the TV on. It's confusing. It's really confusing. And I think most people just want the truth. And it's tough to find, let's be honest. And the problem is here, there's a lot of people being censored and getting into trouble for just speaking their truth that may go against the mainstream narrative. Doctors, public figures, whatever it is, it seems to be that if you don't agree with something, you get silenced or you lose your job. And it's a dangerous road to go down. It's dangerous. Censorship is not the answer, because if they're willing to censor somebody, they're willing to censor you. I'm not one to go and beat a problem to death. I'm one to learn from it, create awareness from it, and figure out, how do I make change in my life? What do I do to make the change and potentially help others do the same? Because our energy matters. And if we give it away to the world and the external circumstances all the time, then we rob ourselves from the gift of applying it in our own lives. So today's conversation, we have my friend, Kid Carson, joining us. He's been on the radio for decades. He was recently working for Z95.3. And he was talking about polarizing topics that the station didn't agree with. And he was given the ultimatum, whether if you keep talking about this stuff, we're going to show you the door. Gave him a warning, couple warnings, and they eventually did. He spoke up on the radio. It was caught, recorded, and shared all over social media. He got so much support from the trucker convoy and just from people in general, not even just that, but people that just respect somebody standing up for what they believe in and, essentially taking a bullet for it. It takes courage to be in truth and to trust the unknown. He didn't know what was going to happen. And sometimes when you trust the unknown, you're rewarded in big ways. And he was rewarded with open arms from people. I think he got like 40,000 followers in 3 days. Now I think 40 to 60 in like the last few weeks. And his show, Kid Carson Show, is one of the top shows in the world. So I highly recommend checking that out. Go support his show. It's available on Anchor, Spotify. Go check it out. Follow him on social media, on Instagram. Kid is one of the realest dudes around, and it goes to show you what happens when you stand up for something you believe in. And this is just one of many examples. So I wanted to have an IG live with him and turn this into a podcast episode because I think it's important. And I hope you enjoy it, you guys. I know this is a bit of a long intro, but I just really wanted to tee this up so that you understand and just see where I'm coming from. I'm all about just finding out the truth so that we can move forward. We can just be better humans all around, you know? And that's what I'm all about. So if you guys do want to support the show, leave us a review on Apple. If you can, share this on social media. Sharing is caring. We really appreciate it. And you guys, I love you. I appreciate all the new support. I got a bunch of new followers, a bunch of new listeners that have come in from Kids Audience. So thank you guys. And I hope you enjoy this.
There we go.
Hey, man.
What's going on?
Not much. How you doing, dude?
Good. Well, brother, it's been a long time coming. I've wanted to have you and have a chat with you on the show and just in general over the airwaves. And I'm excited because what better time than now, right?
Lots to talk about, man. Crazy times.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Crazy times.
It really is. And it's such an interesting time, too. And not only what I've seen going on in your life, like recently with everything, the world, but just the opportunity we have now moving forward. And I love having these kind of conversations and, diving deep and coming away, and hopefully everybody, feels empowered to make new decisions and feel better about their lives. Right. So before we dive into, what's going on with you and everything that's happening in the world, the obvious stuff, I would love to I know you've had like loads of new followers which is crazy. Cause I literally was looking at your followers. I was like, what the fuck is going on here? This is crazy. And it's amazing. Cause you have so many supporters and some of them have trickled over to me. So thank you.
Awesome.
But for those that don't know much about you before, those that don't really know your backstory, I would love if we could kind of peel back the curtain a little bit and give people some insight into a little bit of your life and how you got into radio. So first of all, let's start there. What brought you to radio in the first place? And how did you get into such a crazy industry in the first place?
Well, I want to start by saying I'm not used to being the person interviewed.
Yeah.
I'm normally the interviewer.
Yeah.
And I naturally find it quite uncomfortable to be asked any kind of questions about anything. But this is great, man. This is awesome because it gets me outside of my comfort zone. I'm also not a guy who ever wanted to be on television. So now I got to stare at my own face on the screen here when I'm used to doing radio, where I'm just sort of an invisible, just a voice. How did I get into radio? Man, it was just I knew what I wanted to do when I was a little kid. It's one of those things where I would talk into the end of my pencil when I was doing my homework. Remember pencils?
Yeah. So we're trying to sharpen those things too.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, like everyone who initially wants to get into the spotlight, I wanted to just be cool. I wanted to be like a DJ, cool. There was a cool radio station in my town called Energy 108. It was in Southern Ontario, Canada. And they were just like the coolest guys, and, they'd go in DJ clubs. And so it was that sort of, it was that attraction. I wanted to be a part of the coolness. Got into radio. And then I realized that the less cool you were and the more honest you were, the more people actually liked you. And so that changed my whole thing from wanting to just be like the DJ at night who was playing music and answering phone calls, into wanting to talk about stuff and moving into more of a morning show position where you could actually talk, and you were waking people up in the morning and you were talking about what was on your heart, what was on your mind. And so really evolved into something more than I thought that it would be, Yeah, it's that discovery that just being authentic and being vulnerable is like what people are actually attracted to. It's not the guys who are like, hey, oh, look how cool I am. Like when you're a teenager or you're in your early 20s, that's what you're drawn to. And then as you get a bit older, you realize that, okay, I'm a little more confident in who I am. I'm willing to be a little more real. And that's obviously an ongoing thing throughout your life. And then of course, years ago when I discovered Dr. Brene Brown, and then she started really revealing that being vulnerable was actually being courageous and brave and the whole thing. So then I was like, okay, then I just started spilling it all on the radio, and that's where things kind of really exploded. Mm-hmm.
So I remember tuning in to your show on the beat, probably what it was like early 2000s.
Yep.
And you got me through a lot of hangovers, drives to work.
Yeah. Can imagine.
You were like you were that piece of hope for my morning.
Right.
I had my Simmies, I had my coffee, and it was like, I get to listen to something that gets me out of this shitstorm in my brain trying to go to work. And I think a lot of people resonate with you over the years, is that you have this real authenticity that you may have not even really realized that you were doing. You're just being like a normal human and just having these conversations, just speaking, and people resonate with that. So I've always appreciated that about you.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. The Beat was a massive radio station, and music was really good. It was a great era for music. It was a great time for club music, especially, and hip hop. And yeah, man, it was awesome. And shout out to Nira, who I co-hosted the show with. And yeah, Vancouver they treated me amazing. I initially did the nighttime show at Z95 for about a year. And then I got, headhunted to do my very first morning show, and that was at the Beat. And yeah, that was a great ride. I mean, I think I was there for maybe 15-ish years. And yeah, that's probably my favorite era of radio. It was an awesome. And if you live in the Vancouver area and you're about 40 years old, yeah, it's a radio station was iconic. A lot of DJ Flip Out and all those guys. Yeah.
Yeah. It was an interesting time because radio was everything at that time. Radio this was before,
social media, Instagram.
Yeah.
We might've been on MySpace.
Yeah. And it was, it was something that seemed almost impossible to get into also. Like I wanted to get into broadcasting at one time, but it seemed like it was impossible, bro. Like it seemed like it was just like only one in, I don't know how many people made it. So it's interesting to be able to get in there and survive in that industry because it was tough.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend anyone get into radio now because it's a dying dinosaur.
Yeah.
And all the stations are owned by, 4 major companies, and it's losing money year over year. Part of my decision to make this leap into podcasting that's growing like crazy. And it's scary to leave, a solid gig and move into, it's weird because podcasting was very intimidating at the time because my special power was my own ego is like, well, I'm on the radio, and that's like no one else can do. Like you said, it's hard to get into. And that was sort of my thing that made me feel like I was special. That was my skill. And then suddenly podcasting comes along and now everyone can do a show. And at first it's kind of like, it's a little bit intimidating because you realize as the years went on, you're not just competing against 4 or 5 other morning shows in a city. You're competing against, thousands of amazing talent. Every week there was a new hit podcast. So there was a bit of a weird couple of years now. And now it's kind of radio is in, to my radio brothers and sisters, there's some great talent in radio. Jay Mad Dog Michaels is one of them. And there's some even in town in Vancouver. But now it's like podcasting is like where it's at,
Yes.
It's Joe Rogan has shown that. I mean, his ratings crush even the mainstream outlets, So this is a brand new fun sandbox to play in.
Yeah.
And I'm really lucky that I've had a bit of a carryover from my radio days to help me launch this podcasting thing. So I'm really lucky because a lot of people struggle with the average person. As you know a lot about podcasting. The average person gets 5 episodes deep and they give up because they're sick of begging their friends to listen on Facebook because they can't get an audience. So I've been really lucky that way.
Yeah. And a lot of people underestimate the time it takes if you don't have an audience. Like it takes time, right? And people build a trust with you that takes time to build also, right? Like you have to show up consistently, for people to go, oh, okay. Because so many people quit. And the most popular shows out there, they've been doing it for so long. Like Rogan is just like it's just a staple in a lot of people's lives. I mean, I've been listening to the guy for 10 years.
You do develop a relationship with these people. Like, I mean, I wish Rogan now would talk, and I understand why he doesn't, but I wish he would talk more about his like kids. And like what's happening in his private life. I think that maybe he'll get to that level and he'll evolve because that's the only thing missing from him is, I mean, his guests are fantastic. He's one of the best content producers on the planet, but like, I would love a peek behind the curtain of what makes him tick. He keeps that private, but like in radio, we were always taught, like the more you can reveal about your personal life, the better well connected you'll be with your audience. And I was always super comfortable doing that. I just would at the beginning picture myself like, okay, well, pretend like I'm a character. Like people watch TV shows and they get it or a movie and they watch like characters. I just could kind of take myself out of my own body and I'd be like, I'm a character. I'm going to say that I did this thing over the weekend and yeah, it's embarrassing, but that's happened to me, or I got stood up on a first date or whatever. But I would just sort of compare myself to like a character on a cheap TV show. I would just sort of throw myself out there and not take any judgment too seriously. But yeah, you're right. To your point, it's, you develop a relationship with these people. And the more you reveal about yourself, the more connected people feel with you. That's why I hate small talk at parties. It's so annoying. Like if I show up at a party and someone wants to talk about the weather or sports and I just go, ugh, like just kill me. Like, let's talk about something real, even a little sliver of realness, it just draws you in. You're like, okay, you're a human. Let's talk here.
Yeah. I mean, and you could, I don't know about you, but I could sniff that out so fast now. Somebody that's just afraid to just be themselves and have a fucking conversation about things that matter. And I really resonate with people that are willing to have that conversation. Like, man, what are you hiding? Like, just be yourself. You're trying to like be somebody else and you're hiding yourself and it's just a waste of time. Like nobody can resonate with somebody that's not even being themselves. It's maybe because a lot of people just don't know how. I don't know. For me, I was able to work in the bars for so many years. So I was like able to learn it, and then you get on the radio. So it's like, I don't know, it's a skill that you can develop, but I think the reason people really connect with anybody is that vulnerability, that opening up about shit that you may not necessarily be that comfortable with opening up about, but you're doing it anyway because you know that somebody could get impact from it.
I think a lot of people too, they feel pressure to entertain or to try and be the most interesting person in the room. And you've probably discovered this too, especially with what you do, which is you are a professional, curious person. It's like, if you want to be the most interesting person in the room, just be curious about other people. And when you walk away from great conversations that you've had with someone, if you met a stranger and you walk away and go, man, that person was awesome. They were probably really awesome because they were interested in you. So if you take the pressure off of yourself and stop trying to feel like, oh man, I need to have like a funny one-liner or a joke, or I need to have a great story, or I need to, entertain. You don't. You just need to show up and ask someone what they did last weekend and then listen to them. And then don't just wait for your turn to talk. Like listen to what they say and then ask a follow-up question and then another follow-up question. And you could literally just do nothing but ask follow-up questions and they will walk away thinking that you are the most entertaining person or the most not entertaining, the most interesting person, because everyone wants to share, but no one ever asks really. So when I learned that, I'm like, wow, it really took the pressure off of me when I would go to like radio station events and everyone would be curious to meet the guy that they listen to on the radio. And I'd feel like, oh, I could have like imposter syndrome. Like, oh, I got to show up and be like this, like super entertaining person. And I'm like, you know, they're paying you maybe to go to this event or something. But I just learned to show up and like be interested in people. And I'm naturally interesting or, interested in other people, which is why I love to interview people. You're the same way, I think. You get to you've interviewed some of the most fascinating people on the planet. Your list of people is amazing, man. It's
Appreciate it.
phenomenal. But yeah, you're a curious guy. And I think I'm the same way too, which is really fun with this new podcast that I'm getting to like reach out and like, oh my God, I'm going to get to talk to this person next week. It's easy. It's easy to do because I'm curious.
Yeah. It's, that's the thing about it is like, we'd be having the same conversation like we did before I left to Mexico over coffee, saying that, the same way, that's what I love about it is like the ability to just have conversations as a human to another human.
Mm-hmm.
And then, people open up and then that opening up is like what gives people something. It's like they can feel that it's a real conversation. They can feel that, whoa, this guy's laying it out on the line. Like, and I think it's great. And I think it kind of leads to like, where you're at now. And what's interesting is that, for everybody watching or listening, Kid and I, we met, I think it was probably January 2020. I was Mimi Bouchard connected us and we were going to do this podcast swap in your new studio.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I was like, fuck, this guy's a good dude. I heard about you and I didn't want to be like a fanboy, but I was like, I like this guy. He's a good dude, right? I seen you around, I've heard about it. And I was like, this guy's awesome. So, we started chatting and then, about some other stuff. And then boom, the pandemic hit. And it was like, holy shit.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then obviously we've all been through, the song and dance in our own lives and shit's been turned upside down for a lot of people. But you were one of the people that when I chatted with you about this in the beginning, something just felt a little bit off. Something just didn't feel right, and as things started to go on, so more people started to think the same. And that's kind of, ended up unwinding where it is today. So walk us through that journey of, okay, you're this dude that's got this show that is, about, that's going to expand probably across Canada, probably be, the face of radio, right? And then all of a sudden there's this issue that you want to talk about, but you're not able to talk about it and you have to like dance around the idea. What did that look like for you? How did that feel for you? And, how did that evolve into eventually, you leaving?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had literally I signed the deal to start my radio show at my last radio station literally 2 weeks before Bonnie Henry announced, like, we're locking down. Like the timing was weird. In fact, my co-host and I, we were lucky that we had our own little studio separate from the radio station. So we had a little studio in Yaletown. And so we kind of could have our own rules there. We didn't have to worry about weird protocols and arrows on the floor. Like it was weird. At the actual radio station, they had arrows on the floor. Only one person can walk in the hallway at a time. Masks, the whole, like all the rules.
Yeah.
Like sanitization. It was weird. We could still do our own thing. The crazy thing was Yaletown is normally this bustling, busy area. It's the cool area of Vancouver where we had coffee that time before you left to Mexico. People everywhere, it's just like a vibe. And everyone's walking their dogs. But man, it got really weird showing up every day to that studio because the streets were a ghost town. We would do the show, we would leave, there'd still be no cars. If you saw anyone, it was just them letting the dog out to pee and they were in their pajamas still. Like it just seemed like a bizarre, weird thing. Anyways, as time went on and we started to feel like, this is like fishy. Something's weird. And for guys like you and I who go down the rabbit hole quite a bit, we probably saw it people in our vibe, in our circles, like the few million people who were a little more awake at the time, it started to feel really weird on the radio, not talking about things. So I mentioned a couple things on the air, and then you get pulled aside and they're like, hey, and it was always the threat of, hey, we're okay with it, but the big boss guy in Toronto, he hates conspiracy stuff. So, if you want to get that, the dangling carrot, if you want your show to be, syndicated in more cities, maybe don't talk about this stuff. And you're like, oh, okay. That's one of the dreams. Okay. Well, I guess I won't mention this. And then it starts to build up a little bit and you let something else sprinkle out. So I would say things like, I would use the word plandemic instead of pandemic. I would just slip it in there with a twinkle in my eye. And if you knew, you knew, but if you didn't know, you didn't know. And I would always get DMs afterwards going, I heard. Yeah, sprinkle it in, man. Yes, yes. And you'd get a rush because you're like, okay, my people are out there, they're listening. And it would give me hope that, okay, people know I'm not the only person. I'm not crazy. Because that's the thing. You always feel like you're the crazy person, at first. Yeah. So yeah, but again, I would just be outspoken about certain things. I talk about masks. I would talk about, especially my kids. I have two young kids. I have three kids. My 17-year-old stepdaughter, and then I have two young boys who are 4 and 8. And there's no way my kids are wearing masks. It's not going to happen. And so I'd bring that up on the air, and then I'd always get, the problem is that we would just call them Karens. It's not exactly the right term, but
so true.
The Karens are just, they're so quick. They're so quick. And when a lot of emails come in to your boss and say, Kid Carson said this is misinformation, whatever they say, it'd be so angry if I would talk ill about masks, and they would call me dangerous because I said, the first time was, I said I didn't like wearing masks. I said, I will wear it. Remember in the early days? I said, I will wear it because I want to protect my neighbors, my community, and I will wear it, but I hate it. Hate it. And not just someone, hundreds of people emailed the radio station saying that I'm spreading dangerous ideas. And I thought, man, this is weird. Like, we're not supposed to love it. We're not supposed to like masks. We're not supposed to like it. It sucks. You're walking around. It's not human. You're walking around with your face covered.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be a thing that you hate.
Yeah.
But you do because you want to protect other people. But when you weren't even allowed to say that you didn't like masks, like you could only say that you love them. I love it. I'm going to get one that matches my outfit. I'm going to get a special embroidered one with my initials on the side. And then the radio station started making like masks with the radio station like logo on the side. And I'm like, this is the tackiest shit I've ever. Why are we glorifying these masks? Like, it's not supposed to be a good thing. So, all these different stages you go through during this whole ordeal. And then eventually a couple of times I just had to go on the air and say kind of what we're saying. Guys, this is what's going on here. Why is no one saying anything? Like, the science has changed. Why aren't we adjusting to that? And still in BC, I'm sure you've heard, we're like now the last place to have the masks and all the mandates. The rest of the country's opened up and we're like the only ones.
Wow.
So my point is you start to feel like, man, I'm on the wrong side of history. Like this is wrong. And of course I was just, eventually shown the door. As you know, that's kind of the story.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, dude, what a challenging situation for you though, because, for all of you guys listening out there, if you're in that situation and you've got a good gig and you got, you're a popular guy, you're on buses for God's sakes. I'd be like, hey kid, I just saw you on a bus. Like it was crazy. And that's something that you got to sit with and decide like what matters more, cause you could have easily sat there, kept your mouth shut and then just, whatever would have happened with the show, you would have been probably very successful. But, you stood and you're like, man, this doesn't feel right. And I remember talking to you, 3.5 months ago before I moved to Mexico, and you were like, man, like, I don't know what to do. And you're talking about it not feeling right. And, I had a feeling that it was only a matter of time before what you decided to say and what happened. So when I heard that, recording, dude, I was so fucking happy. I was so proud.
Thanks, man.
Because that shit isn't easy to do, man. Most people aren't willing to do that. Let's call it how it is.
And I've talked a little bit about it, but I mean, I haven't told this detail, is that my heart was pounding. I knew, like, I was looking at, we have a clock that tells you how much time is left in the song. And, I could see like, okay, there's 30 seconds left in the song, 29, 28. And I knew I was going to say something, and you're hoping it's going to come out right. And, I know I had already promised my boss I wouldn't talk about that stuff anymore. And then it's like 8, 7, 6, and I'm like, then I'm like, shit, man, my heart's starting to go, it just starts to race. And it's, you're thinking, okay, you're trying to reference the best motivational quote you can think of, like, just be brave, just be brave, just be brave. And you just, so it's not for anyone else who wants to speak. I'm just telling you this because there are people who are like, oh, I wish I could say something to my coworker or on my Instagram account, or it's not, you're not going to feel, it's going to be uncomfortable. It's just taking that leap. And then once you take it, you realize that a whole new world can open up to you. Your tribe finds you. It's like, I was ready to piss off so many people, and the people that I thought were going to like attack me, they didn't. They just disappeared. And this new group of people showed up, like by the tens of thousands. They just showed up and they were like, hey man, thanks for saying that thing. I feel more relevant. I feel more relevant now than I did on radio for the last 2 years.
Wow.
I was hanging on to this radio as like, if I just disappear off radio, I'm just going to vanish. But I was in the wrong place, It's in the wrong place. And sorry, I just lost my train of thought. Back to you.
No, I mean, it's gotta be an overwhelming thing, because having to make that choice with the fear of the unknown, like, you don't know what's going to happen. You could have easily, like, in your mind, you're probably like, oh man, I'm screwed. Like, part of you, anybody that's going to do that is going to think that, but then boom, that's what I loved, is watching the support for you, because everybody's craving somebody that is just willing to just say what everybody's thinking. And it's not even about talking shit about these politicians and whatever your opinion is. It's just like, hey man, this doesn't feel right. Does anybody else feel like this?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is going on here? Like, we're humans and we have logic up until this point. We've learned a lot of things and this doesn't feel good. So is anybody else feel me here? And that's what you did. People were like, man, yes. And, and they supported you. And that's what was so great to see, is that to be able to see people support you, and then it take you past where you were in radio, right? Like you say, and it's beginning for you too, right? So many opportunities that can come from this.
Yeah. I started to get frustrated, feeling like that there was nothing in mainstream media was reflecting the way that almost everyone I knew felt. Like, it was weird. It felt really like, and I would talk to my bosses behind the scenes, and I would say, listen, if I don't mention this, like the final straw for me was the trucker convoy. Like, I was just told not to even bring it up. And I'm like, okay,
what?
We are, like, now I am, you want me to go on and be topical, and I'm now going to be so out of touch. I'm now going to be the most out of touch person if I don't acknowledge what's happening. And like, no one's, still to this day, I mean, no one's talking. I mean, it just became so frustrating. So I'm like, okay, listen, I can't. There's a thing like when you're first in radio, and maybe other people can relate this to their corporate job in some way. For me personally, it was like when you first get into radio, you're doing your show for your boss, because after the show, you're going to go into the boss's office and they're going to sit you down and they're going to give you this was good, this was bad. And they even make you listen back to your show. You have to like sit in a room and listen to yourself on a speaker, and your face is red and it's awful. And this is at the beginning of your career. They do this a lot. It's called air checking. You do your show for your boss. And then eventually when you get a little more confident, you start doing a show for your audience. And what a difference, I knew what my audience wanted. They wanted someone just to be real, man. And my boss didn't want me to be real. And you start to feel like I said in that recording, you start to feel like a sellout, or again, I still don't know what the right word is. You just start to feel, you don't feel good about yourself, and man, I have kids, like young kids, like a job is usually a nice thing to have, especially when you're a parent and a husband. So yeah, it was just like, oh, and thank God my wife's, she's down with us. She's the one who's like, our kids are never wearing masks. We're not going along with this garbage. So thank God I have a wife that is so on board with everything that, now she's helping me get this stage of my career going. But yeah, you're right. You got to feel good about yourself, man, or else it just bleeds into everything else that you do, And yeah, I do feel like 1,000 pounds. Like I'm a little nervous, of course, but man, the weight of that off my shoulders where I can just have this conversation with you. Dude, I could have never had this conversation with you a month ago. Yeah. Ever. My boss would have been blowing up my phone saying, get off, log off. What are you doing? People would have been emailing the station. Kids online spreading dangerous information. Dangerous. Yeah. It's a thing,
Yeah. And there's some comments there around alignment. And yeah, that's so true. Everybody that's saying that is bang on. Like that's really what it is, man. You're like, this doesn't feel aligned. And if you're out of alignment, you're just living as a prisoner and going like, what a sense of freedom. I mean, talking about the freedom convoy and all that, but for yourself, what a sense of freedom to step up, say what you feel, and all of a sudden you're rewarded with all these people that support.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yeah. It was. I mean, for the first week, I can't even count the number of times I had a lump in my throat. And going, holy shit, man, I am emotional. This is emotional. I was never ever good with taking a compliment. I don't know how you are with that, but it always feels a little like, I don't know, imposter syndrome or whatever. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm not that, like, okay.
Yeah.
But I had so many great comments of people like, oh man, just like, you're a hero. And I'm like, no, the heroes are in their trucks, like in Ottawa right now. I'm just a guy talking about it. But I had so many nice comments that I would just like, holy shit. I would just be like, lump. I was very emotional. Like,
did you get much backlash? Like, or actually somebody asked this question and I want to go back to it because I saw it pop up. What was the reaction from your coworkers, like the people, like your peers that you work with? Like, what was that like? Were they happy, or were they like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah, what the hell are you doing?
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I know there's people at the radio station where I worked, and I would never talk bad about the station. I mean, we have a difference opinion, but they believed in me for 2 years. They fed my family. They and I'm sure some of them are pretty annoyed because I messed up their plans. I know there's definitely some people in the building that are on the complete opposite, like openly mock on social media. People like me, people like you, Lance. They think that we're crazy, and that's okay, man. Like everyone's got their own thing going on. You just gotta love everybody, and you gotta. I mean, I feel for people that aren't awake, and people are sometimes working 2 jobs, 3 jobs. They're raising kids. They don't have time. Like I'm a parent. It's insane. I barely have time to do things that I mean, I'm just you get obsessed with this stuff. So you end up making time, but instead of watching a Netflix show, you're reading, diving in, but most people just don't have time. I think society is sort of give them, what's that famous, give them bread and something, and give them bread and sports and they'll forget about what's happening in the world. We're all so distracted, we're busy. And so people who just have no clue, like, I don't hate on them or have any anger towards them. It's like, man, I feel bad. You're so busy. You're busy with living life, paying your bills, just trying to keep your head above water,
Yeah.
But there's definitely some people that, I expected more people to reach out at the station. The world reached out to me, but where I worked, I think I probably annoyed and ticked off more people than anything else.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting to observe different people and their level of awareness. And it's sometimes, you're right. Somebody's working. I know that when I was working, in the bars, 12 hours a day, like I didn't have time to like hear anything of the outside. I would just go to work and whoever tells me something, that's just the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, some people probably just haven't had the time to really, learn more than what they already know. And that's not an excuse. I think after 2 years, we should kind of sort of educate ourselves a little bit. But at the same time, I'm not judging anybody. I don't have a family. I'm worried about myself, my business and stuff. But like, I can't imagine what it'd be like to have a big family, have a lot of work to do, go to work and, 2 jobs and then, have to worry about what information is true or not. Like, right? People, we like to believe that information that is being provided is the truth. Like most people are good, trustworthy people. We just want to believe that the people that are in our homes on TV close to us are telling the truth, or the people that are on the radio in your cars. It feels familiar. You want to know that the truth is being said. So just like, in grocery stores, you want to trust that the food there in the grocery store is good for you. Like, you go on all day about it. But, I just think some people just haven't been able to just have that awareness. And it sucks because I think it's only a matter of time before people say, oh shit, I was wrong. That's okay. But I think a lot of people now at this point are so stuck on the idea that they may be wrong, that they'd rather just ride with the idea until,
this whole thing is, it's really genius. The masterminds at the top, it's genius because they know obviously so much about human psychology and they're just 10 steps ahead. So they know the fact that it's, that other famous quote. Yeah. It's easier to fool someone than it is to convince them that they've been fooled. Because, we would then have to admit that we're not as smart as we think we are.
Yeah.
Like for now, someone to admit that, man, I didn't see this for 2 years. A lot of people don't want to admit that, And the second part of that is that when you do admit it, man, when you realize what's really going on, there is such first of all, your reality shatters and there's a real heavy mourning process that happens. Like I was really bummed. This is pre-COVID even. I've been kind of dabbling down the rabbit hole for 10 years or so.
Zeitgeist even.
Yeah, right. Exactly. When you realize that the people that you just kind of trust to take care of you aren't taking care of you and there's a lot more going on, man, is it heavy. Oh, it's like for 6 months, I was just like bummed, like a mild depression. You're like, oh my God, my whole worldview has changed. Like I can't, and then nothing's the same after that. And then you start connecting the dots. And then when you're told something, you're like, oh, wait a second. You're doing like what you did about that. And 9/11 was a big one for a lot of people because that was such a sloppy job and so obvious that when you went down the rabbit hole on that one, you go, oh my God. And then you're angry that not everyone else sees it, So yeah, there's a real, man, it's not a fun thing to wake up. It's really like frustrating and it's dark and it's lonely because then you're someone you used to hang out with all the time and you realize that now you can't connect on that level and you can't talk about frivolous things anymore. You just sort of, but that draws you to people like you, for example, us connecting and like we can grab a coffee and go for a walk and it's like, man, we're not talking about the Canucks. we're talking about, man, so did you see this? Oh yeah, this, and it's all real, you know?
Yeah.
There's definitely a veil that is lifted off and you see what's going on. So yeah, it's a hard one.
Yeah. And you know what? Like what I really try and focus on with the podcast, University of Adversity, is, really focusing on like how the tools to empower people to make different decisions and to, change maybe a different direction in their life. Right. And I think as well, right now, we can get so wrapped up in the problem. Like it's very important to be aware. I'm not, I think that's such a big importance, but I think also it's like, what is the solution now? Like, I don't want to give my energy to politicians. I don't want to give that to them anymore because we already see what happens. And it's like, well, okay, how do we focus and really build that within ourselves and the people around us to make change? And what we saw with the convoy was just what I was impressed of was the ability for humans to come together and the ability to see people dancing and laughing, and wherever you stand on it, it doesn't matter. It's nice to see human beings coming together and being together. And I've thought after, like, why do we need a protest for people to do that? Why can't we be doing that shit?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Now that we've seen it's possible, people can put their differences aside, mostly on other stuff, and just come together when it's really important.
And dude, that's why that thing was shut down as viciously as it was, because us all coming together with the energy of love like that, dude, that was such a huge threat. Like the ultimate threat. It's what they've been making sure we don't do for so long. We're all separated. We're all living in our little condo terrariums, separate from each other. And man, and divided in so many ways. Man, when that started happening, I think that blew up faster than anyone thought. I mean, I've interviewed some of the truckers and they're just like, man, I was driving my truck and like every overpass, thousands of people. And like, I was crying and that thing spread right across the country fast. So man, not surprised that they had to bring out the Emergencies Act.
Yeah.
Bring in swinging batons to make sure that we're afraid to do anything like that again. I mean, that's how scared the evil forces were to get a little woo woo.
Yeah. I mean, I think you got to go a little woo woo sometimes. You got to think about it. Right? I mean, and I don't even know what's woo woo anymore. I mean, like, I just sit here and I think about just what's unfolded in the last 2 years. It's just, I still feel like I'm in some sort of weird virtual reality or matrix, which we are.
Yeah.
Like it's wild, man. What's going like, I don't even know.
Yeah.
Nothing surprises me.
Yeah.
Nothing. And
well, listen, I'm one of the crazy people that believes that we're living in the matrix.
Yeah, I do too. I think so too.
There's some kind of matrix. I saw someone on Instagram post something the other day of like, what was it? So someday when, what was it? They were talking about God or something. And they said, oh man, there's this entity that's created the most advanced metaverse. It's the new metaverse, man. It's like, you can like really get in there and touch people and interact with people and learn and like, do whatever you want and create whatever reality you want. This one's called the universe. It's like the universe is the new metaverse and we're already living in it. Like this is what they're trying to replicate. We're already here.
Yeah.
Like, we're already here. So like, enjoy this one. Like, this is the latest technology, man.
It's a crazy thought. It's a crazy thought because, what we have in this reality is the power of our subconscious, and we can create things and we can do things. But I was thinking about that the other day. Let me know if you guys agree with this. Like, how weird is it that you can't think of things and create? Like there's no program to like the chance of maybe something coming into your life or some sort of, like miracles. That shit happens, man.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Power of belief. And it's like, imagine living in a world that's just like a legit program with only what's there is it.
Yeah. I mean, I know you're a big fan of Dr. Joe Dispenza. You went to his event recently. I saw that on Instagram, and years ago I had a chance to interview him, and yeah, like the guy healed his spine with his thoughts.
Yeah.
And when you have intention like that, I mean, we can do things that are truth is stranger than fiction, man. Like it's unbelievable. And it's like all these things that we want to do live in somewhere, another dimension, and we manifest it. It's sort of like I don't know, it's the fourth dimension or whatever you want to call it, but you focus on it, you think about it, and then it becomes, it exists, but it's not physical yet. And then it just sort of melts into the 3D realm that we live in. Mm-hmm. If you want to get woo woo, it's there are times where I've been really in meditation, and at one point I meditated every day at 3:00 in the morning for an hour before I started my day. I wish I could say I had that sort of dedication now, but I meditated and visualized that I had a house, and that exactly knew the hallway was going to be, that I had a home gym and all these things. And after a year, against all odds, in Vancouver, no doubt, one of the most expensive cities, my wife and I managed to scrummage together money for a house. And it was crazy. And it had like the little home gym in the corner, exactly what I'd meditated on for a year. And so we're talking, and I didn't miss a day, man. We're talking over 365 hours of meditation, but it became so real that it morphed into my physical reality. So, I mean, I know you're kind of into that.
Dude, I mean, that's amazing. I had no idea that you did that.
Yeah. Well, that's sad. Long story short, we had to sell the house when I got fired from a radio gig. The mortgage was too big. But you know what? I'm going to meditate a new house, man. I'm working on that now.
I love it because Dr. Joe talks about that. It's like a clear intention and elevated emotion. And the thing I like about Dr. Joe and what you're talking about is that he has studies in science that back what he's talking about. He makes a lot of woo-woo stuff. He's like, I know data, and he has data. So that's why I resonated with Dr. Joe, is because, look, I've always been curious and open to that woo concept, but then somebody that can come and take the mystical and make it and tie science to it. I'm like, oh shit. Okay. This is, and everything that happens, he measures.
Yeah.
You can measure the frequency of gratitude. You can measure the frequency of love. You can measure the frequency of joy and what goes on in the brain. So when everybody is focused on love, you create that. Like that is what happens. And that's what I watch people heal, man. I watch people get out of wheelchairs, walk. I saw really wild stuff. And it's all measured about what happens to your brain. So in day-to-day life, if you're able to really focus your attention and open your heart to that, miracles can happen, bro. We need as a collective to do more of those group meditations. I think it would be powerful at sending out whatever needs to be sent out, because love is going to be the only thing. And I don't mean to sound cheesy to everybody, but it's really true, man. When we open our hearts, so much opens up for us.
Yeah. I mean, there only is love or fear.
Yeah.
Love, you're creating; fear, you're destroying. So, I mean, I worked with a guy a couple of years ago. His name was Jean-Paul, and he mentored me for a while. And we talked about relationships, and he kind of taught me that, like, sometimes you get to a point where you want to say something to someone and you don't say it. And he's like, if you don't say it because you're afraid, you're destroying.
Yeah.
It's like, how can I best describe this? Some people think that, okay, if I just go through life and I don't do this or I don't do this, that everything will just stay the same. But that's not the case. We're either creating or destroying at all moments. We're swerving. It's like a boat. A boat never just goes straight. We're steering it. Yeah. So he's like, you have to focus your energy on the love to create, and do that as much as possible. Create. And the moment you're not creating out of fear, you're destroying. So then you're destroying. And we've all had times like that in our life where a bad habit creeps in, or You stop speaking your truth, and you don't just stay where you are when you stop speaking your truth. You actually start to deteriorate, which is kind of what we just talked about a few minutes ago. When I was starting to deteriorate by not speaking my truth on my radio show, for example. And that happens in our marriages with our spouses and in our families and our coworkers. And, the moment you stop being truthful, you start to destroy that relationship. So yeah, and I also, as you were speaking and saying what you were just saying, I thought, man, you've witnessed Dr. Joe. I've interviewed him. I actually went to one of his, did like a weekend, not like the week intense thing you went to, but I went to like a weekend thing in Vancouver years ago with Dr. Joe Dispenza and experienced what you just spoke about. And I thought, God, the people that are been pulling the wool over our eyes with this whole pandemic for the last few years, they know this too. So they're using this knowledge against us, which is why it's so important to fight back with love, with unity, with, they know. That's why they're trying to keep us separate. That's why the truckers convoy was so much of a threat, Anyways, and now I'm just rambling.
No, but it's true. And, someone's saying, yes, we have to stand up and fight. Yes, absolutely. But there has to be a level of, there's only so much energy that you can use outward. Mm-hmm. You have to be able to build that strength and resilience within yourself. Nobody's going to give you that on the external world. You have to build that. And we have to be aware and stand up for things, but we also have to be able to be patient, and we need to be able to understand that all of that stuff starts with ourselves. All of the love and all of the healing starts with ourselves. Nobody's going to do it for you. Nobody's going to rescue you. Nobody's going to come in and give you the permission that you already know. You have to take that upon yourself to do the shit every single day that's going to help you get to the level of that feeling. If you're in a state of feeling like shit and down all the time and shame, it's just going to perpetuate into more of the same.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I love talking about serious things, but then I also want to be like, all right, so now we know, but what do we do moving forward?
Mm-hmm.
Which comes to kind of wrapping this up. So we're aware, we're in a crazy world, whatever you want to believe or whatever, it doesn't matter. But now where we're at, what do we do? What do we do moving forward? Like, how do we move through this? Like, what do we do?
Yeah. Personally, someone had a couple of weeks ago shared this little nugget with me and said, hey, listen, manifestation, yes, all this stuff. But if you're caught in a rut of being, feeling guilty or feeling ashamed, then, well, what are you manifesting?
Yeah.
You're basically telling the universe to, listen, write me a ticket. I've been a bad boy.
Yeah.
It's like, you have to let stuff go. And this person actually said to me, she said, it's like the universe writing you a ticket. You're sending them the message that you're guilty, so you're going to get a ticket. So you show up and now your car, someone's broken into your car, or whatever little annoying thing has happened to you throughout the day. So you really have to get out of that space of guilt and of, shame, and just let it go. Like you said, do the work and everyone's got their own way to do that, but do the work, make it purposeful. It's important. Don't bury stuff. Don't just bury stuff deep down inside and let your subconscious send out these signals to the universe that you're a bad boy, you're a bad girl, you deserve something bad to happen to you. Because, man, when you are clear of mind and you feel light, you feel good, and that's a battle every day sometimes, man, you're manifesting the shit that you want. Again, it sounds all woo-woo, but man, bro, it's not easy. It's not easy. It's a challenge. It's not easy, man.
No,
it's not. It's part of the human experience is that battle.
What's the alternative, right? I mean, I think we've all tried the other alternative, and it usually doesn't work out that well. I don't, man, I spent a lot of years being an angry fuck all the time. Pardon my language if people like swears, but and then when I started to change the way I think, feel, things changed. And even how I look at something, I get pissed off at what's going on, but then I'm like, all right, hold on a second. What am I going to do when I get up tomorrow to make my life better in my own life first.
Mm-hmm.
If I look at my phone right away and go and get angry at the politicians, what am I doing? I'm literally taking everything that I could use right now and giving it to them. Like, fuck that, man.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's like,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
yeah, that's, that's really where I'm really trying to focus the energy on, like, what's the solution? How do we do it?
Yeah.
How do
Yeah.
we- and
And
yeah,
I was going to say, if you're in a rut, like this, I love it when people give me these, like, I didn't think of this stuff. These are little nuggets that people have fed me that I've hung on to. But like, if you're in a rut and you're feeling crappy and you're, I don't know, guilty or whatever it is, just help someone. And I'm like, if I'm feeling crappy sometimes, I'll just help someone. And then it's like, it just starts the ball rolling that little bit, you're just, I don't know, man. It's usually someone asking for help that you normally wouldn't have time for.
yeah,
But you just go, and my neighbor mentioned that they needed help with that. I'm just going to like block out an hour and like just help them.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how that shifts your energy big time,
absolutely, son. Yeah, it's huge, bro. And that's the stuff that makes the change within us. It's those little things, but a lot of people are just so caught up in too much of the other stuff. And I'm all, I talk about this all the time on the podcast. Just like, I'm tired of giving away all my power. I'm tired of giving away all my energy. And I'm like, because then I get depleted and then I can't function in my own life. And then it's like, what's the point of that? Right?
That's happened a lot for my wife and I the last few weeks. Like, man, like the other weekend when we just watched the riot police just go ham on those protesters in Ottawa, that we do, man, these people were, I was interviewing some of them and it just was, I couldn't believe that they were swinging those batons and smacking people across the head. And I'm like, this person was just blowing up a bouncy castle the other day. And it gets so like, oh, what do we watched? So that was like watching the live streams nonstop all weekend. We watched the live streams. Then you go to sleep in that energy. Then you wake up. And then last night we watched, what's that movie everyone's saying to watch now? The Fire Winter. It's a story about Ukraine. Someone maybe in the comments will know because of what's happening in Ukraine now. People are like, oh, watch this movie, Fiery Winter. Have you heard of it?
No, I haven't. Oh, it's not to repost something.
Oh, it's the most unbelievable. It's weird because it's Ukraine from like, I think it's 2014. I could be wrong, but it's also about protesting. So it's like taking two major things that have just happened in our lives, the protests in Ottawa and Ukraine. And it's a movie about my wife just commented Winter on Fire. Thank you, honey. Winter on Fire. And we're watching this and it's like, it's so bizarre to watch because here it's the Ukraine. Here they're protesting because it's a battle of whether they join the EU or not. And it is so intense. I mean, the police there showed up with like iron, like their batons weren't even plastic. They were like iron and they're smacking people and dude, it is. And so then after we're like halfway through and I'm like to my wife, I don't think I can watch any more of this because we just watched the trucker protest and now this. And, but this is what happens. It's a hard balance, man, because you want to stay informed. We're going down the rabbit hole, but it's also very intense. And I'm trying to learn how to find the balance. And I don't know exactly how to do that yet, especially now that I've just started this podcast about, talking about truth. Yeah. So I feel like I'm deep in it more than normal, where normally I'm researching silly, J-Lo's back with numbnuts, for my radio show. Now I'm into this whole new space. So yeah, man, you're right. I'm going to think more about what you've just said about giving your energy away. I think that's a really, really interesting point.
Yeah. I mean, I've just had to come to terms with it so many times. I just found myself getting so depleted some days and I'm like, whoa, what's going on here? But yeah, I mean, it's not easy, bro. It's not an easy journey the last 2 years. And I think we all just kind of figure it out as we go. And I mean, there's no field manual for this. It's kind of like, right? kind of roll with the punches. I mean, I'm in Mexico. So,
Yeah. Son of a bitch.
but
Dude, no, I'll tell you, this has been really annoying to have our faces like side by side with your tan and my pinkness, you know, and your
Dude.
hair, like you get the long hair and a tan and I can't even grow a mustache. This has been quite distracting while I try to think of.
Hey, bro.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate it, dude. You're a handsome guy. And I mean, you got a huge podcast, massive amounts of listeners. I see you, where you ranked in top 3 in Canada and whatever it is in the world now. Just keep doing what you're doing, man. Congratulations.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Thank you. And thanks to you, because I've really appreciated being able to learn from you, you know, as a guy just talking, but as like a podcaster and the people you interview and yeah, I mean, you're one of those guys trailblazing. You've been a trailblazer for years. How many years have you been doing yours now?
3, just over 3.
3 years. Yeah. Yeah.
I appreciate it, bro.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's been fun just chipping away at it, you know? Just,
yeah.
I really, in a way, I really like doing it live. Like I feel there's way more excitement because when you record Zoom, it's like, I'm so used to it. I like live. I like seeing people, and I like real time feedback. Like I love that. It feels way better. It's like more of an completely changes the dynamic of the conversation too.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, I'm so used to live doing a radio show and I've kind of missed that. So a couple of my little posts I've put on, you set up the camera and you're like, okay, I got the thing. And then you're just like, now what? Now what? But you're right. When you're live, there's just something that clicks in and that's it. Yeah, it's good. I'm inspired to do more live stuff too. Honestly, dude, all my years of radio, of being on Instagram, I never did live till this week. Wow. It's like my first time. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I'm not used to being on camera as a radio guy. I'm used to just being like hiding behind like a microphone, but I just was very intimidated to do it. Yeah. But so thank you for pulling that in my comfort zone.
Awesome, man. Well,
I know to do this.
You're going to be a ton of other people wanting to and have a conversation. You know, I love knowing the human behind the thing, you know, the business, the journey, the story. It's always, we're both curious people and I just love it. So by
the way, if anyone knows if J-Lo and Ben Affleck are still together, I would love to know because I haven't read any Hollywood gossip in like 2 weeks.
Yeah, let us know all your Hollywood gossip, everybody. So guys, if you haven't checked out, obviously a lot of people have seen your podcast, but tell us a little bit about it and where the best place to find it is.
The best place is just go to kidcarson.com.
Yeah.
That's it. I've just revamped my website. It's pretty basic, but it's got all the things are there. All the things.
All the things.
Yeah. All the things, man.
And if you guys haven't yet, I would want to check out University of Adversity podcast. It's available everywhere also. It's also available on YouTube where I make a lot of funny faces, as you could probably tell. Some people like to watch and just watch you make stupid faces, but it's all available there. I appreciate all you guys coming and supporting. You know, this was great, kid. I really appreciate it, man. This was awesome.
Oh, thank you, Lance. Thanks. You're a real one. You're a real one, buddy.
Thanks, everybody. Make sure to subscribe wherever you're listening to this. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell for notification, and most importantly, share it with somebody that you feel needs it. I would love to just see these blasted all over social media, all over Instagram. Tag us, let us know your favorite takeaway. It really means a lot. And if you guys can, leave us a review on Apple if you feel called to do so. It really matters. I want to try and build the reviews on there. And you guys, I just appreciate all of you. If you do want to support the show in other ways, you guys can. How you can do that is you can purchase my course, Warrior Embodiment, how to embody the true warrior spirit in all areas of your life. And surprise, surprise, all of the things I talk about in the show, I have condensed into a course and modules that have helped me change my life, and it'll help you as well. It's $47. Price is going up. when my book is launched, Mastering Adversity, at the end of spring, we're going to be changing the course a little bit, adding more, so the price will go up. So get this course while it's still $47, and I promise you, you won't regret it. All right, everybody. I love you so much. Stay safe out there. Keep those hearts open. We'll see you soon.